Hi, everyone. This is Zack Hawkins, State Representative of House District 31 here in Durham, and this is The Breakdown with Zack, my weekly Facebook Live that talks about the biggest issues with leaders that are making a difference in North Carolina and in my district in Durham County. And so today I have a personal friend, sorority sister, my realtor, President and CEO of Right Time Realty, Kimberly Williams. How you doing, Kimberly?
I'm good, Zach. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for joining us today. We're talking about a very, really important issue. And for you, you're pretty connected. I mean, you're from Durham. You're connected in Durham. You're a realtor. You're a member of the North Carolina and the Durham Realtors. And so, as we get into the topic of sort of the state of housing in many ways, tell us about you and how you got into real estate.
Wow. So my story is really unique. I've always been in sales. I graduated from North Carolina Central University with a Bachelor of Business. And I've always been interested in putting more in order to make more money. That's just me. I was always driven to do sales. And a woman approached me at one point and said, "You would make a good real estate agent." And I thought, wow, that's weird. But I truly believe that God, orders your steps. And
Sure.
so, because this woman didn't know me from Adam, I decided to pursue the real estate career. Now, mind you, at that time, I didn't even own a home, but we took the steps, purchased a home. I started taking the classes, and here I am. Next month will be 19 years that I've been in the business. I got into it because I was so excited about people my age at that time purchasing a home, because I grew up with my grandparents owning a home, but not my direct parents owning a home. And so it wasn't something that I was taught that we should do. And so for me to be able to make money but also pursue a passion with helping my people, it just made sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you help, Tracy and me, but in the older home and in the current home we have, and so we're grateful for for that, for wanting to help your people, and that sort of leads into my next question. So you've been in the industry for about 19 years. What have you seen change, especially in Durham in the housing market over the last 2 decades?
So, being a Durham native, I've seen Durham change tremendously. I remember when William Bell got elected as the mayor, and downtown Durham started becoming this thriving district where people would go at night. At one point, you only went downtown to pay the water bill or pay your
Right.
chemical bill or something like that. And so he was very innovative in making sure that Durham became this thriving district, right? And so with that, the residential housing market started to boom. So when I first got my license in 2002, you could have a minimum credit score of a 580 and purchase a home. You could get all kind of down payment assistance. And so for my first 6 years of real estate, it was amazing. And it was amazing because I was reaching out to people who didn't think that they could purchase a home. And I was showing them that they could purchase a home with very little money down, and it could equate to probably what they were paying in rent.
Right.
And so you see these subdivisions that started popping up, and everyone is becoming excited because now they are on the path of wealth building. So that changed tremendously in Durham, because it was a phenomenon at one point to own a home unless you were middle class, 2-parent family, working at North Carolina Central or Duke, any of the big name industries. And so that's a huge change that I've seen. I've also seen more implants coming into the area and purchasing homes because people that come from the West Coast or up north, they're able to get a home here for a very reasonable price compared to what they're paying in some of those areas, and also come over and make a good income. We also are our seasons are pretty mild. We don't have harsh winters and harsh summers, and so you get a lot of people that want to move here to relocate and retire.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I think the numbers are 20 people a day.
A day, yes.
And you're exactly right. I remember moving here 20 years ago, and the only reason you went downtown was to pay the bill and to eat at the Subway. That was the only place to eat at the time. And things have changed. And so with that, there has been a little bit of a have and have nots, because as you mentioned, people move from different places, which is welcome, but they have higher incomes, and because of North Carolina's housing market, it is very, very attractive. We have RTP, right here in Durham, which brings a lot of people, a lot of employers. Um, so with that, talk about first why it's important to own a home. You mentioned wealth building. I wanted to make sure we talked about that, and then why there are good neighborhoods and why there are bad neighborhoods in Durham, so to speak.
So housing stimulates everything. When people own a home, they have a sense of pride about themselves, right? So, you may take better care of yourself physically because you own a home. Usually people that have homes have health insurance, which means they go to the doctor more often. Their children do better in school because they have this place that's safe. They have this place that's secure. They have this place that they call their own. And it goes beyond home ownership. Really, it's housing, period. I sit on the Durham Land Trust board, and we are responsible for helping people secure affordable housing, whether it be rental or home ownership. So just having a home to live in just gives you a sense of pride that makes you want to be, that productive and good citizen in the world. Why we have good neighborhoods and bad neighborhoods, there's a huge history behind that. I'm reading The Color of Law, and these are things that I've known about, but it's coming. The momentum is here now, and the momentum is because of all the social injustice that people are seeing. Coronavirus is first forcing people to be home. People are having to see the injustices, and now they're having to realize that these are injustices that are not new. These are things that have been going on. So let's get the history behind this. So, back in the day, African Americans and other minorities owning homes, there were strict laws against that. There were neighborhoods that banks would say, if you buy in this particular neighborhood, we won't give you a loan if you're white, because we don't want you in that neighborhood, or vice versa. If you are an African American, we won't give you a loan in this home. Traditionally, predominantly African American neighborhoods, values are 23% lower than other neighborhoods, which means a couple of things, right? So that means that property taxes are going to be lower, and schools are fueled by property taxes. So most of the time in these neighborhoods, the schools don't have the resources as the neighborhoods in the higher income, higher appraised value neighborhoods. And so you have this mad rush of people that are trying to get into the better schools, but can't afford to live in those neighborhoods. I'll give you a really good example. Most of the time when people come to me that want to purchase a home, they've done their research and they say, I want to purchase a home in 27713. 27713, I could sell you a home there, but you're not going to get as much home as you would in a 27704, 27703, 27705. Why is that? Well, that's one of those systematic racism type things that happen that, it wasn't intentional, but it kind of was, and so those are definitely the better school systems, and those houses appraise more and they hold more value. But you can have a builder that can build the exact same house on two separate sides of town, and the value would be 23% lower because this town has more of a minority population. So that's what makes a good neighborhood versus a not so good neighborhood.
I think you're just doing, and the reason I use that terminology is because one of the things I talk about is there, when you put it like that, people have what their visualizations of what that is, right? Or who lives there, etc. And using that intentionally makes them say, well, gosh, why is that? Right. And so because anybody should be able to live anywhere in Durham and feel like they can succeed. They should be able to they should be able to go to school because we're an education town. They should be able to succeed, grow up here, be successful, grow a family here, you name it. But that's just not the case in every instance. And one of those things that contributes to that is, gentrification. And so I know, particularly as a realtor, you understand. If you look at Southside Rolling Hills, if you look at different places around East Durham specifically, in House District 31, $50,000 house around the corner is a $400,000 house, or homes that are being fixed up. Talk about that phenomenon, how that plays into the work that you do.
So with the gentrification, it's twofold, and I'm honest with anyone that I talk to about it. There's a economic side to gentrification, and then there's a people and a human factor side to it, right? And so, unfortunately, sometimes you'll have landlords that own properties in this neighborhood, and they don't do a very good job of taking care of their properties. And so, with them not taking care of their properties, then we start having dilapidated homes, but people are still living in these homes. People are still living in these homes. They're living in bad conditions. And sometimes when people move out of the homes remain vacant for a while, and that allows vagrants to come in and, crime ridden, because they know that the home is not being monitored. And so in those particular situations, those people aren't paying taxes on those properties. And so there's a cleanup effort that goes along that says, hey, our neighborhood services department, they go around and, they give out citations for people that aren't taking care of their homes, right? So that's the human factor that's involved with gentrification. Sometimes with gentrification, there's also resources that are not available. You don't have access to grocery stores, and then you start having what's called food deserts. Public transportation are sometimes the only means of transportation, and so you may have people that live in these neighborhoods that are of lower income, and so because they are of lower income, they're not eating healthy. They're going to the fast food restaurants, or they're going to the convenience stores to purchase groceries. And these are things that we're far removed from because we don't have to do these things, right? So then what happens is the profit side of gentrification. You have investors who say, wow, wait, I can buy this house for this amount of money, because what's happening is that Durham is becoming landlocked, right? And so the 27713, there's not but so much land you can build a house over there. And so they have to come towards downtown. And when they come towards downtown, the people that are living downtown are in these smaller homes that haven't necessarily been taken very good care of, or, grandmother has passed away and the heirs aren't paying the taxes on the property. And so Durham has a decision to make. Do I allow these investors to come in to build these homes, or do we continue at this pace? The problem is there's no balance. There's no balance as to the price point. And if builders were offered some type of incentive, at one point they were, to build affordable housing. And that's where the land trust model comes from. The home is owned by the homeowner, but the land stays with the organization. Therefore, we can sell a home at a lower price. Well, we don't have those incentives anymore. And so a builder says, listen, I paid this, and this for lumber, windows, siding, and I need to be able to net a certain profit. That's why you see these monstrous homes coming up in these neighborhoods that you're like, wow, what in the world? I get it inbox all the time when people are like, wait a minute, is this house really on the south side? And sometimes people will call me and say, well, can we just go see the house? Because I just can't believe that. And me being a resident of Durham, how do you think I feel seeing my city change? Right. And my native Durhamites are not the ones that are purchasing these homes, because at some point Durham hasn't done a very good job of taking care of the natives first. We have done a very good job of attracting people to want to come here, but we haven't held them accountable for hiring local. We have North Carolina Central University, we have Duke University. Plenty of talent that stays in Durham after they graduate, with the hopes of getting these six-figure jobs for these industries that are coming here. But unfortunately, those aren't the people that are coming here. And when I sell those houses that are $500,000 and up, the majority of them are implants. So they drive the gentrification. So the housing comes where the industry comes. The industry comes first, and then the housing, it follows. It just follows.
And that makes sense. And depending on where you live, if you live in New York City, if you live in the Bay, some of these places are not. Whereas some folks are like, oh, I would never live there. Like, oh, that's fine. It's I can run to downtown. Does that make sense? And so the way that people view proximity and living with other people of different incomes varies from city to city. And so those in larger cities generally have had more access to diversity in that way, economic diversity.
The sad part is, why now? Because when you build a grocery store, like if you ride through the South Side now, there's still not a lot of development, but it's coming, right? So you got Hayti, where Hayti has been recently sold. And so everyone's watching to see what are they going to bring over there? What type of amenities are they going to bring? But these amenities could have come before, because there were still citizens there who work jobs, who are able and need to buy groceries and need to get gas and need to go to the ATM. So why is it now that you want to cater to the implants when the natives have been here all along and have needed those exact same services?
That's when you talk about the accountability, right? In local government, and those who get a chance to approve, those land deals. Now, one thing I'll make sure that everybody knows, this, is that sometimes some people will buy a lot that's desirable and sit on it for almost a decade. And then when things swing up, that's when they start building and say, like, oh, why would the city allow that? At the time, they were just trying to get it off their hands, or they didn't think that this area was going to be as desirable. And someone literally just played the waiting game. And so that's one thing to realize. But one of the things I think that you tied earlier was you talked about employment and jobs to housing. And that's something that I don't want to let go, because that's one of the things that we talk to our city and county folks as businesses come, especially into RTP. We say, well, what can we do to make sure that you're connected to local and that you're connected to the local talent and you're working with DPS? And so I know that you are uberly connected to the construction industry, because you see these houses go up from top to bottom. How many people do you meet in that building of a house that are actually from here?
Not many. There are actually construction crews that come in town and they are put up in a hotel for a certain period of time, and they come and they do the work and then they roll out. Especially with coronavirus, because, a couple of my clients, the process of their home being built was delayed because if one person on the crew, caught coronavirus, they'd have to wait until they found another, crew to come in. The other unfortunate part is, the builders no longer have their own crews. When I first got into real estate, everyone that worked on that property had on a shirt that represented that builder. So let's just say if it was Hawkins Builder, the plumber was Hawkins Plumbing, the electrician, all of those people work for the company. Well, the builders, for liability purposes, decided we're no longer going to employ these people. We'll just, have different subcontractors coming in. And with those subcontractors coming in, they're not our employees. So we're not necessarily responsible for the quality of the work, or if there's any issues with people getting hurt or whatever. And so that in turn saved the builder some money, but they did not trickle that savings down to the homeowner.
Yeah. And so in you and sort of the real estate industry, what can all of us do, including you all, to help make that connection, to help identify people who are interested in it and make sure that they get the heads up? Because a lot of it, I'm imagining, is a pipeline issue.
It is a pipeline issue, and it starts with the federal government. I'm so excited right now that, my sorority sister, Marsha Fudge, is the new, Secretary of HUD. But one of the things that she is saying is that she wants to be responsible for holding local government accountable for doing what they say they're going to do with the funds that are designated. Too many times, we allow bills to get passed that are very vague and are ongoing documents. The document is never solid. And we need to show up to these city council meetings and these county commissioner meetings, because the people need to understand that when you vote for something, there is an accountability issue, and there's ways around this. We're not the only city that's having these issues with affordable housing, but we can look at what some of the other cities have done. We can look at some of the plans that can be implemented to see what can we do to take care of people. Because if we don't, the homelessness is going to be off the chain. I mean, we're going to be a New York and a DC after a while, where every restaurant door is locked because homeless people are outside camped out and they don't want people coming in using the bathroom. I'm seeing it. And so it's like, why wouldn't you solve that problem or head it off before it becomes a problem?
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because the stats about North Carolina is that over the next decade and a half, we're potentially going to go from number 9 in population to number 7,
Yep.
right? Just based on projections, which means Durham County could have almost 500,000 people in it. Imagine Durham. Of course, most of them are going to live in the city.
Mm-hmm.
500,000 people, and that's Durham County, but most will live in the city. And so, if you think about that, you're exactly right. We're at a tipping point where we're at a population point where we can solve our problems: homelessness, affordable housing, and like you said, taking care of our people. Because I love and I talk about how cool Durham is and a better North Carolina, but none of that is possible without making sure that people have it. We talk about it as a delegation all the time. Everybody deserves a safe, clean place to live in.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It means everything. And so when you talk about, you were sort of, wading into the policy pool, what are some of the policies that you all have seen work in local areas? And I know, again, you're connected to the Realtors Association, both locally and statewide. And, it's all about advocacy, because this is part of what this show is about, is making sure that people know, who's doing the work and to get educated, but especially to find ways that they can get involved.
Yeah. So, we have to kind of start over, because our former president got rid of some really good policies. And so now that we have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in office, one of the first things he did was he reversed one of the policies around fair housing and, banks being able to use discriminatory practices when issuing mortgages. One of the policies that I'd like to see, and I'm not sure how this would work, because as much as I try to understand what y'all do, I really don't. But I'd love to see some lesser restrictions on people that are able to purchase homes. If someone to me is paying $1,500 a month in rent, and they can prove that they've paid that for the last 2 years with savings, I feel like that person should be able to purchase a home. And but rent isn't counted when it comes to credit. They don't get any credit for that. It's strictly a debt to income ratio, and minorities, we don't make the money, that our counterparts make. It's been proven. I don't have the statistics, but it's been proven. And so therefore the gap between minority home ownership and other home ownership is only going to get wider and wider and wider. What you're going to see is you're going to start seeing the McDougal terraces that are in regular apartment complexes, because you're going to see multi-families living together in one unit because they can't buy a home, and even the cost of renting has gone up, to ridiculous amounts. I get clients that call me all the time, saying, hey, my landlord is selling in 30 days. Can you help me find a rental? And when they say, I can pay $1,100 or I can pay $800, there's nothing out there. There's nothing out there in that price point.
And so is it true? And it seems like it is, that if you have anything under 200,000, that there's not enough stock. I think it's not enough stock under 200,000. And the reason that we know that we're in a crisis is because we only have, a month of inventory in Durham? Is that the stat?
Right now we have about 3 weeks of inventory, and January 200 was a sweet point. Right now 250, 275, anything under that. When a house goes live in the system, before I can make an appointment, there's already probably 15 other appointments. There are people that are buying houses sight unseen and taking a chance, because that is how crazy the market is right now. When you have low interest rates where people can pay the same amount that they're paying in rent, and and very low inventory, that is what creates this horrible demand, for housing, to the point where I have had to explain to some of my clients, you're not going to be able to buy anything, because I won't sell you a home just because interest rates are low. If it's not going to make sense for you and what your family are doing, then we have to wait. We have to wait, because the media has created a frenzy. It doesn't have to be this way. The media has created a huge frenzy that now is the right time to buy. And as much as that is my slogan, it has to make sense for the homeowner.
Yeah, no. It's definitely, like you said, and I love your slogan, by the way. And so one of the things, I watched the movie The Big Short, and it talked about the housing crisis. that led to the financial meltdown in '09. Are we in a place where we're building towards that, or is it just the fact that the inventory is low, and when the inventory is low and people know what the median income is, they're going to sell houses at that price point, and they don't care to make anything affordable, because that's not what the industry or the climate of the market is asking for. Is that kind of accurate?
Yes, the housing crisis will be a little different because as long as the economy itself stays pretty good and the job market stays good, there will be people that still will buy homes. When I first got into real estate, I was selling homes at 11% interest rate. So
Wow.
the interest rate doesn't really drive, the purchases. It's really people's ability just to even pay that mortgage, because you can buy a house at a high interest rate and refinance it later. It's still a better deal than continuing to pay rent, right? The problem that we have right now is that we don't know what's on the other side of coronavirus. Right now, 1 out of 10 homeowners are behind in their mortgage, and 1 out of 5 renters are behind in rent. And so what's going to happen when coronavirus is completely depleted? We're back to normal. The homeowners will be able to have that mortgage put on the back end as a forbearance. The renters, we don't know, because the landlords may say, hey, I know you haven't paid me in a year, but I want my money, or you have to leave. And so then now those people, of course, they probably aren't ready for home ownership. So now they have to figure out, okay, where do I go from here? And as far as those homeowners that are behind in mortgage, if they have not gotten, gainful employment by the time coronavirus is over with, even though they don't have any payments due right then, those payments are going to become due at some point. So what happens to those people? We won't have a true foreclosure market, because the banks aren't going to be so quick to put people in foreclosure, but you're going to have people that are going to abandon their homes because they can't pay the mortgage. So as long as we have the demand, there will be people to purchase those homes. So it won't be a true, a whole bunch of empty homes sitting and, because they can't sell. But, as long as there's a halfway balance with some people that are employed and some people that aren't. The service industry people, they're doing well. They're not doing so well, but those people that are still working from home, that want to purchase a home, they'll be able to purchase a home. So that's what will keep the market from completely crashing.
No. That's exactly right, and that makes complete sense. And some of the things that the governor and the federal government under Biden's leadership has included money for land and for tenants, to make sure that they can delay as much as they can and make sure that they give them money to fill the gap, because that's the one thing that I do worry about. And I hear a lot from constituents who are landlords, like, hey, what can I do? I need help too.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
on the other side of it, it does make a lot of sense that if they have to pay all at once, and then when they can serve that eviction, then people are going to be out on the street. And if we only have 3 weeks of inventory, and then we have very low affordable housing, that could be a problem. And so that's something, for those who are watching, that's something that we absolutely need to make some noise about.
Right.
And,
So, because let me tell you how far back this goes. How much time do we have?
yeah, no. You go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay. So let me tell you how far back this goes, right? So one of the reasons that some of the minorities are having a hard time with this bidding war and this low inventory thing that we're having, right, is because Mr. and Mrs. White, I'm just going to go ahead and keep it real, they own a home. Yep. And they have equity in their home, and so they're able to give daughter White money to put down to purchase a home. So she gets a better deal, and she probably has good credit because she probably didn't have to take out as many student loans. Whereas Mr. and Mrs. Black may not have even owned a home, and their child, I sell a lot of homes to millennials who they are the first generation homeowners in their family. And so they come in, they need down payment assistance. Well, now we have a box that the North Carolina Real Estate Commission, the North Carolina Real Estate Commission has added to the forms that says, is this person receiving down payment assistance? Yeah. Well, most people that are receiving down payment assistance are of a certain income level and probably of a certain race, right, or minority. Sure. And so now and these people qualify for FHA loans versus conventional loans. Conventional loans are for higher credit scores. So now what you have is you have someone who wants this home and their agent submits an offer along with 15 other offers where daughter White is able to put 20% down. She has a 780 credit score, and daughter Black needs down payment assistance because there's some wonderful down payment assistance programs out there. But without telling Mr. Seller anything about my client, you've told them everything about my client. So there's some systematic racism that's supposed to be unintentional, and they may not have realized the repercussions of adding that to the form. The other problem is that with down payment assistance loans, they're usually backed by FHA. FHA is a little more stringent when it comes to the underwriting and the condition of the home. Well, now we're competing with Mrs. White daughter who can buy a home as is, and she'll fix it later. And so that's why I've had to, educate some of my clients, like, now is not the right time to buy a home if you have to be worried about the air conditioning unit going out tomorrow and you don't have that kind of money to replace that air conditioning unit. So that goes back in the day, the redlining, the fair housing, the FHA saying who could and who couldn't buy loans. And, at one point, the African Americans could only get interest only loans and never build any equity in their home, but live, 2 neighborhoods over from a white, neighbor who, was just constantly making payments and building up equity. It's kind of, we gone that path. We just slowed it down a little bit, but now we're fast forward at that same path, and federal government has to come in, to end some of these discriminatory practices, which the average person doesn't look at it as discriminatory because they're not in this and they're not seeing how it affects minority home ownership.
That's right. We see the manifestations of it every day, but we just think that's
every day.
Yeah. No, that makes so much sense. And the thing is that the reason this is one of the issues of our time, right? There's so many things that I believe that we can end in our lifetime, things like home, things like, affordable housing, making sure that people have access to resources. Like, when we know better, we do better.
We do better. Mm-hmm.
The pandemic has been, horrible in many ways, but as you mentioned earlier, it has really shown a light on all of the inequities that exist in our society. And if we choose not to move on them, then that's on us. But we can't say that we didn't know. And so, Kim, I always end with allowing people to talk about, the specifics of what you're doing, how people can contact you, where they can find you, and especially because you're my realtor, I'm gonna let you do that. But I would love for you to do that, because not only are you a wealth of knowledge, you're connected from Durham, but you are connected to the to the Realtors Association and that policy arm, and making sure that people are educated about this kind of stuff. And so you've shown that today. So love to hear more about how people can find you, and then we'll sign off.
They can call me directly. My phone number is 919-391-TIME, time, or they can find me on the web at www.timetobuyahouse.com, or just Google the best realtor in the world and I'll come up.
So she's also on all social media platforms.
Yes.
And does an amazing job of showcasing, right? And the more you showcase what you do, the more people who are attracted to your work. And so we really appreciate your time today, Kimberly. And this has been another amazing breakdown with Zack, talking about the biggest issues facing Durham, facing North Carolina, with people who are making a difference. Take care.
Good night. Thank you, Zack.
Thank you.